And that has created in retail, for our first example, kind of a tipping point. Marketplace's Mariel Segarra reports.
America, quite simply, does not have this pandemic under control. And that's starting to sink in for retailers. Mark A. Cohen is director of retail studies at Columbia Business School.
Until there's a vaccine and or effective palliative drugs, unless this mutates into something less infectious, we're in for a terribly bumpy ride.
Especially in retail. When people don't have jobs, they're less likely to spend money. And with virus cases growing, they also feel less safe going out shopping. So since it looks like this is the new normal, Cohen says retailers have to start making changes for the long term.
If they're doing business on the internet, as many are, they're going to have to get more effective and efficient.
They'll have to figure out what customers want to buy now in this weird new world. If not back to school clothes or office wear, then what?
They're also going to have to reconcile themselves to the fact that the economic damage that this pandemic has brought with it and will continue to bring with it is going to necessarily cause the performance to change.
They're just not going to do as well as they would have otherwise. So they'll also have to shrink, to make cuts, just to survive. Joel Bynes is a managing director at Alex Partners.
If you think about the costs that retailers have, merchandise is first, people is second, and rent is third. And so the first thing that they're going to do related to merchandise is buying less, which will have an impact on the global supply chain.
On the people front, they'll cut jobs. We've seen that already.
And then the next thing they're going to do with rent is reduce.
In other words, close stores and potentially file for bankruptcy. I'm Mariel Segarra for Marketplace.
Nobody is talking bankruptcy for airlines quite yet. We should be clear about that. But the news for commercial aviation is also deeply not good. As we told you yesterday, United Airlines warned 36,000 workers, that's almost half its employees in the United States, that they could be furloughed come October. And as Marketplace's Andy Euler reports, United's likely just the first in a string of airlines warning things could get worse before they get better.
Now, there's some practicality here with United's furlough warning. October is more than 60 days from now, and according to the CARES Act, which gave airlines some relief, that's the minimum amount of time carriers have to give employees if they're cutting jobs. Gary Leff runs the website View from the Wing.
It's not actually likely that they're going to lay off as many people as they've given us notice to, but if they found themselves later needing to let go of more employees, they would be behind the curve by a couple months and they'd be incurring additional costs.
And he says for company morale, overestimating the initial number of layoffs is better than having to go through with a second round if the first one didn't cut it. But airline consultant Michael Boyd says it's not all companies. Despite an uptick in COVID-19 cases in Texas and Florida and travel restrictions at major airports, demand is actually better than worldwide.
American Airlines is heading back in. Discretionary carriers, they're adding a lot of service back in because they got a lot of demand.
Boyd thinks by December, air travel could be up to 85% what it was last year. But he says that'll happen if the spread of the pandemic slows down and if other parts of the economy open back up. Big ifs.
We can see the cliff's edge coming up.
That's Robert Mann. He's an airline industry analyst. He says, absent a rapid, significant, and sustained increase in demand, the post-summer capacity cutbacks and the subsequent job cuts will be historic.
It's really just like watching, Thelma and Louise approach the cliff's edge and what follows. So the question is, why does anyone need to see the rest of the movie if you've seen that clip, you know where it's going.
Air travel in the U.S. plunged about 95% from March 1st until mid-April. The number of U.S. air travelers around July 4th was the highest since mid-March, but was still down about 70% from a year ago. I'm Andy Euler for Marketplace.
We got an update this morning on one of the markers we've been using to keep an eye on the health of the labor market and by extension really the whole economy. First-time claims for unemployment, they fell just a bit but are still blisteringly high. More than 1.3 million people asked for unemployment insurance help in the past week. Here, though, is kind of a bigger picture on that. Also from the Labor Department, this number, it's through the 20th of June, so just as the economy was reacting to the virus spiking again, it's all the people in this economy on some kind of unemployment assistance. Here you go. It's 32.9 million people on some kind of joblessness aid. You do the math, that's about 1 out of every 5 workers that we've got. Wall Street today, tech and the Nasdaq did fine. The Dow and the S&P not so much. Details, numbers, when we get them. Among the many things this pandemic has complicated, work. Also, being a parent. Also, being a working parent. And with the still not completely settled everywhere question of what school is going to look like this fall, a lot of families are doubling down on doing double duty for the duration, which could have some implications for job security. From the Workplace Culture Desk, Marketplace's Megan McCarty-Carino has more on that one.
In the early weeks of lockdown, Ruth Martin with the nonprofit Moms Rising was optimistic the crisis might have an upside. Companies were finally being forced to provide the flexibility and accommodations for families her organization has long fought for. But she says those promises are starting to fray.
We do worry that we're going to see more examples of employers discriminating against their employees who have these caregiving responsibilities.
Last week, Florida State University faced a backlash when it announced employees could no longer care for children during work hours. The school has since retracted the policy, but it reflects the growing risks for working parents, says Joan C. Williams, the director of the Center for Work-Life Law at UC Hastings, which runs a helpline for workplace discrimination.
We just have hair-raising stories of the kinds of treatment that people are being given.
And the burdens are falling hardest on women.
My husband has about 4 hours of video calls a day, and so I often get kid duty, especially in the mornings.
Julia Martin is an education law attorney near Silver Spring, Maryland, who's been sneaking in work during her children's nap times and in the evenings. Like many moms, she's taken on the bulk of extra childcare for the family. Caitlin Collins is a sociologist at Washington University in St. Louis.
Women are reducing their work hours 4 to 5 times more than fathers are doing.
And even women who can maintain a full workload face a penalty when inevitably kids run through the background of video calls.
The very same action of stepping away from the call to tend to a child is perceived very differently in the workplace, to the advantage of men and to the disadvantage of mothers.
Women workers tend to be perceived less favorably and paid less when they have children, while men get a career and pay boost. I'm Megan McCarty-Carino for Marketplace.
About what no school means for parents working from home, but what happens when home is a family farm, which means you have to be out working each and every day? Here's today's installment of our series, My Account.
My name is Anna Schweigel, and I am a grain farmer in western Minnesota. I farm with my husband, and we raise 360 acres of certified organic row crops. We have had like kind of a major switch for ourselves in our family dynamic. We made the decision to pull our kids out of daycare out of kind of an abundance of caution, and school shut down in mid-March here in Minnesota. And so we have had our full family involved in the farm. The kids have been not super helpful yet, but they're 6 and 4. Pretty tough to get that to work all the time. This spring we planted during April, which was a good time to be planting. But for a lot of those hours, it was just one of us kind of high-fiving each other and heading back out, when you need a break or whatever. Kind of running those long days. A lot of our crop was contracted in the winter. Hopefully buyers will honor that. I mean, it's always a gamble every year, I guess. we've never had issues with buyers not honoring contracts, but you know, with the economic downturn, I don't know. It's something that kind of sits in the back of my mind. The really big question mark right now is whether there'll be school here this fall. Because harvest season, almost more than planting, is all hands on deck. That would be really, really difficult to manage both kids with no child care. So we'll see. I mean, I shouldn't be optimistic at this point reading the headlines every day, but I'm hoping that we will have in person or some form of like a hybrid instruction for school. In farming, there's just so much that's out of your control. The weather, the markets, things that you just don't have control over, and you just kind of have to let that go. But now we're adding on another thing that's been just another layer on that cake of, you know, just trying to let go and knowing that what's going to happen is going to happen.
Ed Schwagel in Browns Valley, Minnesota. We can only do this series with your help. So please, let us know what is going on in your economy. You can do that at marketplace.org. Coming up.
Glass is amazingly durable material, but it's also can be fragile as well.
Durable yet fragile. Yeah, that sounds about right. Maybe that's just me knowing that. First, let's do the numbers. All right, here you go.